You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Hello.
Hey,
Welcome to the Zod and Drea podcast. This is, episode number 120. We're having a good old time over here. How are you guys doing? Yeah?
Silence.
You
Silence.
Good? You good? All right, cool. And how are you doing, Drea?
I am doing great.
All
Can't wait to continue this again.
Yeah, so, in case you haven't learned or listened to, which you know you got to go over to the podcast, which you can always find at iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or Radio Public or pretty much all the basic podcast, outlets out there. We had two guests over here last week. We had Rojas and we had Connie Jacobo. Over here, and we were discussing how if men have lost the ability to date women today, and we discussed about technology. We even talked about all kinds of really good topics. That was really cool. And being two women who are out there in the dating scene, you know, that's pretty much.
They had a lot to say.
So
they had a lot of words of wisdom.
Yeah, they did. We felt inclined to make sure that we had part 2 of this going on because it was such a heavy discussion to try to talk to in 15 minutes. So you're going to get another 15 minutes later on in this podcast. So if you combine both of them, you'll get a nice good half hour, a nice chunk of information of what women today think about men and their ability to date women. So it's going to be an interesting conversation to hear part 2.
Yeah, we had to do it. There was just too much information. Too much of a great conversation to end.
So, how did the weekend go? Because, I mean, can you believe it's already been another week that's gone by?
I can't even start with about how this weekend has gone. Look, it's been so great, and so many things have fallen into place, and everything has been great. But there was a big push this weekend, too, just so you guys are all aware. It was the 30th for anybody that wanted to register to vote in the state of Arizona for the upcoming primary, so we had a lot of stuff coming on.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. So we were trying to do that and try to push people to get to register to vote because it's going to be, you know, something big. And this was the last day. Like, that was it. At least for the primaries. You can still register to vote, but you just won't be able to vote in the primaries.
So what are we going to talk about then?
So besides the ability to date women, part 2, I mean, Rose and Connie were obviously pretty hilarious tonight. We're also going to talk about the $12 billion that was granted to the farmers. So that bailout money, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And that's on the politics side. On the entertainment side, our movie thing has,
R.I.P. to MoviePass.
Yeah, MoviePass.
We're going to mourn.
Oh, we are going to mourn.
We're going to share our mourning. Oh. So let's get started with MoviePass.
MoviePass. So in case you don't know, Zod and Drea are big proponents of MoviePass, something that we have been pushing ever since that we learned about it. I think it was last year.
Right, and I think you've mentioned before, like anybody that even breathes near me, I'm like, hey, do you have MoviePass? Do you even know what it is?
Oh my God.
I was selling it up to everybody because I loved it so much.
Anybody. So if you didn't know, MoviePass was bought out by Helios and Mathos. I think that's what it was, Matheson, Helios and Matheson something. And it was around for a little while. It was actually around for a little while where it was, I think, $30 a month where you're able to see like a movie a day or something like that. And so they were kind of like playing with it. And Helios and Matheson Analytics had bought it, and they had changed the business model to push at $10 a month where you can see at participating movie theaters a movie a day. So imagine you being able for $10 a month to be able to see 30 movies.
When average ticket price is between $6 to $9 sometimes.
You know what I'm saying? And in other places around the country, I mean, in New York, it's like $13, $14. You can see a movie pretty easily. So any participating AMC or wherever it was being held in some of the little smaller theaters, you would go in there, do your $10, and that was it. Like, that was it. They put money on your account. Now, the problem with MoviePass is the fact that they had to pay the full price of the ticket. So it depended on how many people were going to the theater that day, that they still had to pay out the whole theater ticket.
Right.
We were just going for $10 a month. So, of course, we were killing the game.
Look, we saw some cool independent movies that we probably wouldn't have come across this scene before.
That's true. Yep. Some of the ones over at
Film Bar.
Film Bar over here in Phoenix. Yes, you're absolutely
Shout
right.
out to Film Bar. You guys did us great.
We even got to see Halloween on the big screen. Thanks to MoviePass. Something I always wanted to do, but in 1978 I was too young.
Because that was so cool because we got to play around with the audience and
that was fun. So there were some really good times that we got to see, and some movies, man. Some of the Marvel movies, we would go see them like 3 times.
Oh, we murdered it.
We killed it. We were like, yo, whatever, let's go back to the movie. What are you doing? Nothing. Let's go to the movies. I mean,
we got 2 hours. Let's go see Black Panther again.
Like again and again. And then they caught onto the scam. So then it was, hey, you know what? You can't. They started changing the business model pretty rapidly to where it was like, okay, you know what? You can't see. I remember we were going to some movie. And all of a sudden, you're like, why are some of these other things grayed out? We can't see these movies. You remember?
It was about maybe 4 months ago.
It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, they started to do that.
Yeah, suddenly you weren't able to see the same movie twice. Like, oh, what's this? Then all of a sudden, they started implementing something on mine and not Andrea's, where I had to take a picture of the ticket that I just purchased. And I'm like, what is this? So they kept changing it. We're like, I don't know if this is going to be lasting. Then all of a sudden,
it was like premiere time. So then you could, if you wanted to see a movie that was during a popular time, which was what we found out happened to be during the weekend, then you had to pay an extra fee to see the movie. So on top of what you were paying as a subscriber, whatever level that was, you had to pay an extra, $3 to $4 extra, depending on what the movie was, so you could see it on a weekend.
Which it would have been fine if it was just a weekend, but then they started doing it on Skyscraper, you know, no offense to The Rock, but nobody's seeing Skyscraper on a Tuesday.
No.
But it had the surge. And the surge started happening on everything to where people started complaining because they were sitting there talking about they were paying $10 a month. Then in order to see a movie, it was like $8 during the surge.
Just the one movie.
The one movie. So in other words, the ticket, but if they just bought the ticket normally, it was like $5 without MoviePass.
So then what happened today?
So then there was an outage that happened because it was a few days ago, there was an outage. And nobody was buying anything, and their app was all screwed up. After that, it never got back on its feet. And then today,
all of a sudden, we were going around the valley, going at a meeting, and I was like, "Well, we'll have some 2 hours. Let's just see if we can see a movie because we haven't been able to really see a movie in the past 2 weeks." Sure enough, every theater that was around Maricopa County all had the same message. Theater not available to use MoviePass.
Like, it was not available. It was blackout.
Blacked out every theater that a MoviePass was
movies were
partnered with in Maricopa County. That was not cool.
So all of us. So our movie theater is done. Like, it's pretty much done. And of course, as a result, I mean, they changed the game. Because as a result, AMC now has their A-list thing where they're offering for $19.90, whatever, $20 a month, where they're offering you can see 3 movies a month in any format, 3D, IMAX,
Harkins, your plan still is not up to par, so you need to build a new one.
Yeah, so Harkins has to go on about that. So anyway, if you can, make sure you check out something else other than MoviePass, unfortunately. But MoviePass, we had a good run.
Thanks for the good time.
Thanks for the 38 movies that I got to see in like a really small time frame. I appreciate that, and the one really more because I repeated a lot of movies.
So yeah, we had a good time. Thanks for MoviePass.
All right, so let's move on about these. Now, as you guys know, Trump wound up implementing pretty much it's just his trade war. This guy. This is what happens when you put people in a job who have no idea what they're doing. If you've never served in politics before, if you've never ever served on a political scene before, or never ever been in that, then why do you think that person would be the best person at the top office? So here we go. We have somebody who's a moron who doesn't know how to deal with other countries. This isn't building a building on their land.
No, this isn't bullying a labor union to get your building done at a certain time. These are countries.
These are countries. So when you're sitting there like, hey, I'm going to make America great again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a trade war. I'm going to put taxes on all these, his tax cut, his tax bill. I'm going to put out a tax bill, and Republicans are going to love me for it, which they did. And they're just going to be clapping and all this, and look what we did. Now Harley Davidson is freaking leaving. Like, so many other companies have, like, pretty much gone gangbusters and blown out because of this.
The steel tariffs you're talking about.
And the steel tariffs, and very much so because of this. I mean, what do you make motorcycles out of? But anyway, with the steel tariffs. But then it's also affected a lot of soy farms. These tariffs and the tax bill everything winds up being mixed and matched and merged into each other to where now the soybean farmers, and I think a lot of pig farmers, a lot of things that we wind up exporting are now suffering.
Right. And if you all think about it too, soy is in almost every major product that is manufactured somehow, some way. It's in flavoring. It's a substitute then also maybe for protein. So China was the United States' number one customer, really, of soy, of purchasing soy, because they can use it for, again, same thing for feeding their population. And that didn't work out so well.
That didn't work out. So now what you have is, hey, there's going to be a trade war. We're going to put this many tariffs on. In other words, we're going to throw a lot more taxes. It's going to cost a lot more money for them to do these things. Now, I believe China, they have been taking advantage over who knows how long, and they hadn't been paying their fair share. And I can even understand the idea behind it. But bullying people and bullying a country into pay your fair share or else, when they're like, do you realize how much we actually give to the United States and sell to you guys? That
how much they keep our economy going,
floating, and we don't and how much we manufacture for you? Are you serious? So they're like, please, here. And they were like, yo, take these tariffs. That is now causing a problem with the soybean farmers and a lot of other industries, farming industries and produce industries over in the Midwest. And these are a lot of these people who voted for Trump.
A lot of lobster farmers, too.
Yep, lobster farmers. Oh, yeah, they are getting hit.
They are getting hard.
So what does the president do? He then somehow miraculously
finds $12 billion.
$12 billion in a Great Depression era program to help pay the farmers in order to weather a growing. So in other words, he starts a trade war against China. It effectively starts destroying some of the farmers, which then results in $12 billion from Americans who now have to pay for his own stupid mistakes for his tariffs and his taxes.
So instead of removing the tariffs and being a bigger man and saying, okay, you know what, this plan didn't work, sorry China, let's renegotiate, since he claimed to be the best negotiator ever, instead of doing that, no, we're just going to cover it up even more. We're just going to cover this pile of crap and make it even more stinky and costing the taxpayers even more money.
$12
for
billion.
his ego. For his ego.
Now, the good thing is the farmers are holding out on it. They do not want to use it. They're trying their best to try and work with what they have.
Right. They're trying to reestablish those relationships that they had with those buyers, because this is just a Band-Aid. They know that down the road, they're going to still need to have those buyers.
So we're going to see what happens, because it's something to keep an eye on. It's going to affect all of your pricing for anything that you have. And, we're going to see what's going to happen on the long run, as well as some of these other trade wars that are going on with some of these other countries and European unions. It's going to be interesting. I mean, we're talking soybeans, dairy, meat, produce, liquor.
And he's telling people, oh, it's going to hurt for a minute. No, you hurt.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zod.
And I'm Drea.
And we want you to check out the Zod and Drea podcast every Tuesday.
Where can everybody find us at?
You can always check us out on www.zodanddrea.com.
Where else?
You can always check us out also on Facebook at Zod and Drea.
Instagram?
Zod and Drea.
Snapchat?
Zod and Drea.
YouTube?
Zod and Drea.
I see a pattern.
So if you haven't caught that, catch us at Zod and Drea on all the social networks. But also, make sure you subscribe to the Zod and Drea podcast. Where?
At zodanddrea.com.
And also on YouTube and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We're coming for you.
Let us know what you think. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to us.
And put all of your input into whatever our topics are for the week. So we hope to check you out and see you there.
Bye.
And we are back to continue our conversation about how men lost the ability to date women today. So we have back in our studio again are Connie and Rose.
Hello.
Yay.
Hi.
Welcome back, ladies.
Glad to be here.
Yay. I'm glad.
I got so much to say.
So of course,
So little time.
continuing the discussion that we were having about men losing the ability to date women today as compared to the chivalrous acts that men may have done before. Of course, Dre and I have been watching The Honeymooners, so who knows how far back we have to how far back we have to go.
Pow right in the kisser.
But what do you expect that? What lessons have you learned so far through dating that men could learn from you?
Who wants to take that?
I will take it.
Go, Connie.
I will take all the brutal comments for my response is do not date married men. And believe me, karma did bite me in the butt really good. So I deserved what I got. Yes, I did.
So say if you have a friend that is like, this guy's amazing, he's so fantastic, but he's married, what would you advise her?
I always just say, if he really, even in my own experience, no matter what, if they'll still love that person, they stay. If they no longer love that person, they have no choice but to leave. They can't stay in a loveless relationship. So no matter what they're telling you, the reality is they still love their spouse. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth, So.
And I have no thoughts on the topic because I don't pursue married men, but I do have to that point, will say that men are deceptive in the fact that there are so many married men out there that portray themselves as single.
True.
And so what is your responsibility? How far do you look without looking like a psycho, right? And the fact that they basically don't wear a ring, don't portray themselves to be. And so what is your responsibility? I feel like if somebody presents themselves as being available without being married, I don't need to ask an interview of are you married?
I was real naive. I believed what he told me. I didn't say, oh, I need to see your house. That's one of my first clues now. When are you going to invite me to your house? We've already had a couple dates. You might have come to my house for dinner. When is it my turn to go to your house for dinner? And if it doesn't pursue that they're persistent to only come to my house, that's clue number one.
Good point.
So I have those kind of clues, the red flags. But I was naive. I was very vulnerable. It was an old boyfriend from high school. So it was something that, a love that was there from prior. Right. So it wasn't just this random stranger that just married man that just
I'm going to put some
life.
Tabasco on this conversation because what I've been seeing is, though, not only married men, but there are a lot of swingers out there. So if you do swipe left and right, what you're going to find are a bunch of couples wanting to find a third party person. And so what that's reflective of, what I see, is basically the embracing of people's sexuality of, it doesn't always have to be black and white, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, and it's fine for guys because they're like, yeah, we're looking, it's usually a third party girl. It's never the girl going, yeah, can we invite another guy into the room? Yeah, can we do that? Another banana?
John's really hot.
Yeah. No, it's usually it's usually a friendly female friend.
Who stayed for dinner a little drunk, a little too loud.
Who likes wine and who has painted toes. You're like, okay, that's me.
Awesome.
It's a reflective of what's occurring in society, where even married couples are now being comfortable to invite other people because they know very well that monogamy is, goes against human nature, right? And
we actually had a topic on that.
Yeah. I think it's you have to be careful what you bring into the relationship. If you bring in lying, deceit, cheating, that opens up the window. But I have seen relationships that they have boundaries with having a second person in their bedroom, in the privacy of their home. But
or not privacy.
Yeah, but it may end up falling outside the boundaries.
Right.
And I think it can ultimately collapse the relationship.
Well, here, real quick. Now, from what I see, it's we had a topic about monogamy, and is monogamy, is it dead, or is it against nature?
Right.
And I mean, I find it is against. It's a force, and I think it's someone being forced, usually by religion or some sort of moral decision.
Guilt.
Whereas guilt, and where naturally people would want to be with other. I mean, you do want that one main. You want that one person that you can go to for the security and everything else. That ride or die. But sometimes sexually, you're a sexual being. A lot of men are, and you see it a lot in nature. Regardless, there's some things like penguins and some other and swan that are monogamous or whatever.
Cheat too.
But yeah, and people put so much boundaries on the cheating, and they put so much on that person who does. Where it's if you're not married to me for 50 years without stepping out once, you can have every desire on the planet that you have.
And I don't think any marriage has ever had a faithful marriage.
Well, the
that
thing is, I have to interject
know
here
of.
because, like, I do get hit on by a lot of swingers, and all my friends are like, "What's it about you that you're like getting hit on?" And I go, "I don't know. Like, I'm a non-judgmental person, but I feel like I have a theory: cul-de-sacs. Anybody who lives in a cul-de-sac, they're
grew up on
probably
one.
going to be like swingers in that vault
Hey.
because it's like.
I used to live in the cul-de-sac. I'm not sure about that.
There's I have a theory. Theory number one: cul-de-sacs. Stay away from them.
I lived on 2.
Or it could be the party.
Yeah.
Whichever way you're going.
I love cul-de-sacs. I love them a lot. I played stickball a lot on the cul-de-sac.
But how was the dynamics between the couples in that cul-de-sac?
Yeah, it was
We
all
don't
good.
know.
Like, I mean, everything was fine. But I mean, what I see is, a couple that. All right, first you have to get to that one side. So you're gonna have to find a man who is willing to be with you, and he's gonna be your ride or die, and you his ride or die. So that's step one. In order to even go outside of that relationship, where it's like we're gonna invite somebody in, you're gonna need a lot of trust in order to do something like that. But
and
it also
the
has to
clearest
be,
of communication.
and it has to be mutual. Like, it has to be something that's completely mutual, and it's like, you know what? Let's explore something. Let's have some fun. Let's do something.
Right.
Because I have met people who have been in those relationships, and then they wind up splitting off from whoever and doing some third party something, or fourth party, I
Right.
guess at that point, with someone
Exactly.
else.
I've
And it's
seen-
like,
I've had that happen
how do
to
you cheat on
friends of
somebody
mine.
who allowed you to cheat? Like, it's stupid, and then that breaks up.
Right. And then
But
take in the person that was like, oh, they were supposed to be fun, and now
the guest star. Okay,
Right,
the
the
guest
guest
star
star
gets the
is
starring
the
role.
lead actor.
The
them,
understudy.
We call them the toy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's literally what
Yeah.
you are.
The
You're
toy
the toy.
became
kinda
now
feel like
the
the-
house.
yes.
The
Would
house.
you ever
like-
marry your dildo?
Aw.
I know. I'm like,
I
Like,
might. Just kidding.
no, I
Dressed up
feel
nicely.
It's a reflection
He doesn't
of
argue with me.
women embracing, but it goes to say something.
It's better than
you
a dog.
know. There's times where like this is women embracing, wanting to, they're whether they're heteroflexible or bisexual or whatever, is opening it up to be like, it's not always the man trying to convince the woman. Maybe it's the woman convincing the man to be like, hey, like, I have these tendencies, like, can we do it? And he's like, score, yes,
Right.
agreeable.
Or honey, I love us. I want to try this out with another man, 2 men, 3 men, whatever. And well, actually that does happen sometimes. And it's like, and it's but again, like what you said, it's just, you've got to be clear that it's what you both want.
It's not that I don't see it being that hard. I think that people have to put down, and a lot of times it's men. It's true. Men will want a certain something as soon as another. You mention another guy. Oh no, it's like once the competition comes into play. But I can also understand to a point where a lot of women will be, like Rose said, heteroflexible or something. But it's like on the dating scene, for somebody to even have the ability to come out and say that almost right off the bat, that's kind of bold. Like,
Yeah.
like that's kind of bold.
But people, I think, are getting more comfortable with their sexuality, so they put it out there. So on dating sites, like I've been on all of them, and so I don't want to like really say because people are going to be like, Anyways,
I'm gonna find
but
out right now.
But the thing is, though, there's this whole cuckold and everything where like guys just want to see you fuck another
Scottsdale.
man. Yeah, like, and it's like all of a sudden people are comfortable putting that out there. And I was just telling.
I haven't had that.
Oh really? Oh my god! Like I don't know what's going on with my profile. I try to
I
change
put gentlemen only on my profile, but it
Okay.
doesn't mean that eliminates the jerks.
No, but the
I
thing
mean,
is, though, they put it out there. I
They
just
just throw it out there.
shared
They're just
with some-
trying. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I shared with somebody that he offered to pay me to castrate him. I am like, pay my legal bills, pay my jail fine, because I am not
Because
going
you're about to arrest me when you're bleeding to death.
Right.
Because I used my nail clippers to do
Right.
it.
But to me, like for
Didn't
people to-
specify.
I already have a
wanted it done.
visual
Like,
of
that
what this guy
is-
looks like.
Wow.
But
Right,
this is
but to be that upfront about it, like, and just throwing it out there. So, what are women who are really serious about dating when they get stuff like that? How are they supposed to feel? You
Yeah,
know?
right.
That-
Even
like
one of the
you're a
guys I was
joke or
talking
that
to,
you're-
yeah, he was like, would you do, have a threesome? And I was like, no. And he's like, what if I really wanted it? What if? And he kept insisting, what if I really wanted it? I'm like, then go do it. But I'm not going to be part of it. Like, I choose not to do that.
I wanna go
If I
back-
have done in the past, that's said and done. But
Can-
I'm not saying I'm an angel or
Bad
I'm
experience?
judging anybody. Bad experience. So
Yeah.
I won't
But-
do it again.
Can we
Not
go back
mine.
into
And if I'm
another?
going to do it, I'm going to do it for my enjoyment, not theirs.
What was the other one about suggestions or feedback? Did you have another one regarding like, okay, what will you suggest? What is your advice to men?
Advice to men?
Show up on the date when you say there's going to be a date. Like, I mean, that's like step one. Is don't go far as setting details. Like, I mean, there's been probably about a handful of times where people have actually said location, date, time, everything. And it's either 30 minutes before, or they don't show up. And they basically said, well, I was afraid. I thought you would stand me up. And I'm like, this whole thing is everybody needs to be vulnerable. And everybody needs to put themselves out there. You don't think? How do you think I feel now that you didn't show
Everyone's
up?
afraid of rejection.
What I've learned from experience, if a guy, especially if a guy asks for a date and he brings you like a block away from his home, his intentions are to take you home by the end of the night, because he had no consideration where you lived and how far you needed to travel. So if they're gonna meet you in a halfway point, that's more to me a gentlemanly way, especially on the first date when you're just meeting someone.
I don't know those rules.
But recently, I lost a little weight. Now I'm getting hit on in the bar. So, all that's out the window, where I'm just like, hey, let's, it's a little faster.
And I don't believe in the rules. Like, everybody's been saying, like, oh, the rules say this, the rules say that. And I go, really? Seriously? Like, you could do all the rules you want. And then we just talked about this offline and the fact that, like, I'm good at sports, I'm good at darts. And people say, well, you're supposed to lose in front of the guys so that you can build and I'm like,
how fragile is that masculinity?
That is not in my nature to lose.
And
my dad did not raise a loser.
You can't show your true self, then why would you even want them around?
Or what about a man who barely meets you and wants to get credit? Tells you he's going to teach you how to be a better person and you're going to have a better life with him. And I'm like, okay, I've been working on my life for the last 20 years. I have
Who the hell are you guys dating?
I have 2 degrees. I have, my own money. So my own 401k. So how are you going to then make me a better person? Where's in your mindset? That might have worked for him at one point with, someone who just got out of high school, but we're like in our 40s now. Come on, that's not going to work anymore.
I don't think there's a formula. So we're not here to say how to do, the to-dos and everything. There's a lot of books on that. But the thing is that we're trying to express our experience and the fact that, like we're exposed to these individuals too. We're all vulnerable. We all are putting ourselves out there to find some sort of companionship and whatever. It's just like, just be kind, just be good, just,
So I want to ask, we've already asked location, and we've also asked age, I think. Real quick, because we do about a minute, so like 30 seconds each, would you be able to say, does race have a difference in your dating experience as well?
Well, I primarily date minorities, so I have tried to talk to Anglo-Saxons, but it really never even goes to a first date. I don't know what it is. I like to have to meet people I have things in common with, even with music. I once dated an older man who listened to different kind of music, and we were on a road trip, and I just could not deal with it. I'm like, this relationship is over. Yeah. I cannot listen to classic rock.
And what?
And I love classic rock.
And Rose, what about you?
My mantra is I'm a stray cat looking for a forever home. So anybody could own a house. Anybody could own a house. So I'm just saying, like, I primarily date white guys, tall white guys, because I'm half white, and so I grew up liking tall guys, and in my culture sometimes they're short, but I don't limit my experience. It's just.
But I don't either. I try not to either. I'm looking for a good person who meets me at the mind. So it's regardless of race. And being Hispanic, you get a lot of that where people come back and tell you, a Mexican man will say, oh, now you're tainted. No Mexican man will date you because you've been with a black man. And I'm like, I'm okay with that because it just eliminates all the ignorant people. So, but you have to be thick-skinned in order to, erase those rude, harsh comments.
All right. Well, guess what? We've already come to the end of this one.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? Can you believe
Thank
it?
You, ladies.
This is what it is. Thank you for putting speed around. But thanks again, Rose and Connie, for coming through to the Zod and Drea podcast for episode 120 to do the follow-up for Have Men Lost the Ability to Date Women Today? So, men, you're going to have to do something off of those Tinder accounts, and, you're going to have to boost up something because you're starting to lose them.
Get right.
Testosterone preferably. Testosterone preferably.
Get right with yourself and just be brave to be vulnerable.
We got one here who just wants a white guy, and we got another one who just wants to be a
I want to just be called mommy. I just want to be called mommy. That's it.
We just want somebody to call him daddy and be 22. Like that's all.
Okay.
But anyway,
it's a
yeah.
short list.
So thanks for coming through at Zod Andrea, www.zodandrea.com.
Thank you.
All right, people.
Yay.
Your color looks good.
I love it.